Us in person today, we have Serkadis Gobezi, Zadinesh Tayi, Sian Ashmama, Yangas Yigza, Yodit Wabshet, Bethy Mulugeta, Al Miu Tagan, and Marie Adfrey. And if you can please join us at the podium. And anyone I might have missed can also join you. And I will go ahead and read the resolution into the record. Whereas the war in Ethiopia's Amhara region is claiming countless lives, endangering civilians, and challenging peace, pluralism, and human rights. And whereas the Amhara people are indigenous to Ethiopia, are one of the largest ethnic groups in the country, and have a rich culture and history that is intertwined into the fabric of Ethiopia. And whereas a large number of Amhara civilians, many of whom were unarmed women, children, and elderly people, were killed or injured through the use of drone strikes, heavy artillery shelling, and other weapons of war by government security forces since April 2023. And whereas government security forces and other violent armed groups have perpetrated acts of sexual and gender-based violence on Amhara women and girls. And whereas the Lumpkin Institute for Genocide Prevention and the UN Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide have issued an active genocide alert for Ethiopia's Amhara region due to ongoing killings of Amhara civilians by federal forces. The Oroma Liberation Army and Oromia Region Security Forces. And whereas the European Center for Law and Justice, ECLJ, also reported that the human rights violations range from forced displacement and mass arrests to systemic massacres and ethnic cleansings. The Economist reported that abductions and killings are rampant across the nation. And whereas the United Nations World Food Program affirmed the use of starvation as a weapon of war, and that chronic food insecurity is prevalent in the Amhara region in recent years. And whereas since spring of 2022, Ethiopia's ruling Oromo Prosperity Party has arrested thousands of Amhara civilians, including parliamentarians, opposition figures, journalists, civil society leaders, and other citizens who have faced torture, arbitrary detainment, enforced disappearance, lack of due process, inordinate legal fees. And whereas freedom of press and freedom of expression in Ethiopia has been under threat following the arrests of independent Amhara journalists, internet disruptions, and suspension of over a dozen media outlets. And whereas the County of Santa Barbara encourages continued efforts of the Biden administration to respond to ethnic violence and tensions in Ethiopia, including declining to reinstate Ethiopia's participation as a beneficiary in the AGOA until progress is made towards a peaceful settlement of the conflict and conditions allow for the smooth flow of humanitarian aid. Now, therefore, it is hereby ordered and resolved that this Board of Supervisors affirms its support for the Amhara people, passed and adopted today.
ለመነሻውም ለመደረሻውም መድኃኒዓለም እኛ የምንፈልገውን ሳይሆን እኛ የሚያስፈልገንን ስለምታውቅ እናመሰግናለን። ክብርህ ይስፋ። Santa Barbara, my hummingbird nest, my enigma, my home away from home, my sublime. For the last 50 years, I felt my silence enabled oppression, discrimination, racism, and violence against the Amhara people of Ethiopia. We as Amhara people are still too slow in speaking out against oppression, discrimination, racism, and violence against us even today. Our silence allowed the cycle of oppression, discrimination, racism, and violence to continue. Although our silence did not directly cause the death of the Amhara people over the last 50 years, our silence did nothing to stop our death either. It is overdue for us, for our silence to end. It is overdue for us to speak out. It is overdue for us to raise our voice. I want to end our silence and raise our voice and say what is happening to the Amhara people in Ethiopia is unacceptable. I am ending my silence and raising my voice and say I will not allow oppression, discrimination, racism, and violence to continue. I am asking the good citizens of Santa Barbara County to join me in saying we will end the silence and raise our voice and say no one is free when others are encountering racism. No one is free when others are encountering oppression. No one is free when others are encountering discrimination, and definitely no one is free when others are encountering violence. Let's end the silence together and raise our voice and say we are truly friends of all who are victimized and oppressed, and that we will stand together to make it right. In the words of Martin Luther King, in the end, we will not remember the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. I want to thank you all for setting the cornerstone to speak on behalf of Santa Barbara County. What's happening to my people and me is no longer a matter of being a kept secret. Thank you, County Supervisor Dos William, for giving me the opportunity to stop my silence and to be the voice for the voiceless. Thank you. Thank you all.
Good morning. Forgive us, we're a bit emotional. It's very difficult to stand in front of you and say what we're about to say. First, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Williams. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the board, for bringing this crucial resolution. We, members of the Aymara community in Santa Barbara and the Aymara Association of Los Angeles, greatly appreciate and want to express our deepest gratitude for your resolution in support of the Aymara people in Ethiopia